everybody, I'm Adriana and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back with another Faith Friday video. I have been loving this series, and if you're new to my channel, this is a new series where every Friday it's just an opportunity for us to grow in our faith together and just have an online, living, breathing, godly community. So that is what we're doing today. Today, how we're gonna celebrate Faith Friday is we're going to do another Bible study with me. I've been really loving these. They've been really encouraging to me and just helping me do my Bible study in my quiet time every day of the week so that I am filled up and I can just share with you guys what the Lord is doing in my life and how He is speaking to me and what I get from the Word. So today we are going to be going through, I should probably open my Bible, that would be a good place to start. But today we are going to be going through Luke 22. I've actually just finished the book of Luke this week. That's kind of where I've been reading right now, and there are just some points in Luke 22 that I feel just were heavy on my heart, and I just felt like just like the Lord revealed to me things and that are really relevant to my life at different points in my life and just the world right now. And so I hope that this encourages you. If you are new to my channel and you haven't seen this series before, if you didn't watch my first one last week, maybe somewhere over here it will be put so that you can go watch it. But with every video, I'm probably gonna get a little repetitive just making this disclaimer, but I want everyone to know, whether it's your first time watching my channel or your millionth time, that when I do this, my intention is not to teach, it is not to convict, it is not to call out. My intention with these videos are literally just to do an online Bible study with you guys. Like, you are just in my room and together we just read through the Word and we're just sharing what we felt. We're just sharing what we felt. We're just sharing what we felt like we learned. We're sharing where we felt the Lord revealed Himself or revealed something about us. And I'm just genuinely sharing that with you. Like, I'm about to read through it, and I'm just gonna share with you the things that I picked up and the things that I felt like are really applicable to my life. And so that is the whole purpose of this, to have a real, like, alive, godly community where we're just coming together, digging into the Word and sharing what we gathered from the Word and what the Lord spoke to us. So that is that. So that is kind of what we're gonna do. The way I've been going about these videos is the first thing I'll do is read through the whole chapter. So I'm reading through Luke 22, whether I talk about 2 verses or 60, I'm gonna read the whole thing, because what stands out to you may not stand out to me, and what stands out to me may not stand out to you. And just like in a real Bible study, you would read through the whole thing and then discuss. And so if you feel like something else has resonated with you, or like the Lord just revealed something to you and you feel comfortable, this is my invitation to you to comment that down below, and I would love to engage in conversation with you on how the Lord is moving in your life and what He is revealing to you through His Word. So that is my invitation to you. Please feel welcome, please feel comfortable. I'm being vulnerable with you. This is an open, safe space, and if anybody's mean to you, I have the power to delete that comment, and I will. So that's how I feel about that, but that shouldn't happen. That hasn't happened ever yet, so we're gonna keep that up. But okay, so let's go ahead and read through Luke 22. So, Luke 22. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called Passover. And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might kill Him, for they feared the people. Then Satan entered Judas, surnamed Iscariot, who was numbered among the 12. So he went his way and conferred with the chief priests and captains how he might betray Him to them. And they were glad and agreed to give Him money. So he promised and sought opportunity to betray Him to them in the absence of the multitude. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat. So they said to him, Where do you want us to prepare? And he said to them, Behold, when you have entered the city, a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house which he enters. Then you shall say to the master of the house, The teacher says to you, Where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? Then he will show you a large, furnished upper room. There make ready. So they went and found it just as he said to them, and they prepared the Passover. When the hour had come, he sat down and the 12 apostles with him. Then he said to them, With fervent desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say to you, I will no longer eat of it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. Then he took the cup and gave thanks and said, Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say to you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom comes. And he took bread, gave thanks, and broke it and gave it to them, saying, This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Likewise he also took the cup, after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is shed for you. But behold, the hand of my betrayer is with me on the table. And truly the Son of Man goes as it has been determined, but woe to that man by whom he is betrayed." Then they began to question among themselves which of them it was who would do this thing. Now there was also a dispute among them as to which of them should be considered the greatest. And he said to them, "The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and those who exercise authority over them are called benefactors. But not so among you. On the contrary, he who is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, and he who governs as he who serves. For who is greater, he who sits at the table or he who serves? Is it not he who sits at the table? Yet I am among you as the one who serves. But you are those who have continued with me in my trials, and I bestow upon you a kingdom, just as my Father bestowed one upon me, that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel." And the Lord said, "Simon, Simon, indeed Satan has asked for you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail. And when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren." But he said to him, "Lord, I am ready to go with you, both to prison and to death." Then he said, "I tell you, Peter, the rooster shall not crow this day before you will deny me 3 times that you know me." And he said to them, "When I sent you without money bag, knapsack, and sandals, did you lack anything?" So they said, "Nothing." Then he said to them, "But now, he who has a money bag, let him take it, and likewise a knapsack. And he who has no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say to you that this which is written must still be accomplished in me." And he was numbered with the transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. So they said, "Lord, look, here are 2 swords. And he said to them, "It is enough." Coming out, he went to the Mount of Olives, as he was accustomed, and his disciples also followed him. When he came to the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may not enter into temptation." And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and prayed, saying, "Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." Then an angel appeared to him from heaven, strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. Then his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. When he rose up from prayer and had come to his disciples, he found them sleeping from sorrow. Then he said to them, "Why do you sleep? Rise and pray, lest you enter into temptation." And while he was still speaking, behold, a multitude, and he who was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them and drew near to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When those around him saw what was going to happen, they said to him, "Lord, shall we strike with the sword?" And one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus answered and said, "Permit even this." And he touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, captain of the temple, and the elders who had come to him, "Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs? When I was with you daily in the temple, you did not try to seize me, but this is your hour and the power of darkness." Having arrested him, they led him and brought him into the high priest's house, but Peter followed at a distance. Now when they had kindled a fire in the midst of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter sat among them. And a certain servant girl, seeing him as he sat by the fire, looked intently at him and said, "This man was also with him." But he denied him, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." And after a little while another saw him and said, "You are also of them." But Peter said, "Man, I am not." Then, after about an hour had passed, another confidently affirmed, saying, "Surely this fellow also was with him, for he is a Galilean." But Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you are saying." Immediately while he was speaking, the rooster crowed, and the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." So Peter went out and wept bitterly. Now the men who held Jesus mocked him and beat him, and having blindfolded him, they struck him on the face and asked him, saying, "Prophesy, who was the one who struck you?" And many other things they blasphemously spoke against him. As soon as it was day, the elders of the people, both chief priests and scribes, came together and led him into their council, saying, "If you are the Christ, tell us." But he said to them, "If I tell you, you will by no means believe. And if I also ask you, you will by no means answer me or let me go. Hereafter the Son of Man will sit on the right hand of the power of God." Then they all said, "Are you then the Son of God?" So he said to them, "You rightly say that I am." And they said, "What further testimony do we need? For we have heard it ourselves from his mouth." Okay, guys, so there's a lot to unpack there. that is like leading into the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, and there's just so much we could talk about, but every time you read the word you get something different out of it, and this time I picked up a little something out of this passage that I felt I really wanted to share with you guys. And so that is specifically found at Luke 22:31 is where what I'm talking about lies, and it is where Jesus predicts Peter's denial. And I'm going to read it to you again just so we can all be on the same page. And it says, "And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, indeed Satan has asked for you, that he may sift you as wheat, but I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail. And when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren." So there are a couple things here. First off, when you're reading that, you're probably like, Satan has asked for you? That sounds a little crazy. And then, but I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail me. That your faith should not fail, and when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren. So those are three parts to those couple verses that I think are really, their importance didn't make sense to me until I really dug deep into it. And just for some context, I am reading out of the Evidence Bible, the New King James Version. I don't really have a preference or a reason that I read out of this version. This is just the Bible that I've always had, and so that's what I'm reading. But what I do like about this Bible is that it has little commentary at the bottom, and so it'll kind of like, the same way that I'm explaining something, not explaining, but like, you know, kind of breaking it down for you now, it kind of does that for some verses in here. So I do like that. I don't always agree with everything that they explain, but I do love hearing the different interpretations, and this one specifically I really liked, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And so sometimes you may read this and be like, why didn't Jesus, or why didn't the Lord just tell the devil to go away and like leave Simon Peter alone? You know what I mean? But sometimes we've seen in the Bible multiple times that God allows Satan to test people. Like we've seen it with Job, we've seen it with Paul, and sometimes he allows them to test people to shake things off of them and to almost like strip them down to their best parts and to get them as near to the Lord as possible. You know, Satan's motive is to steal, kill, and destroy every time. That is always his motive. Not good. But the Lord is good, and he is a good father, and he doesn't want to see his kids suffer. But like any good parent, you know that as much as you want to protect your kid, sometimes you just gotta let them go through it to become their best selves. You know, like sometimes you just have to experience things to learn and to be stripped of the negative portions of yourself and come out a better you on the other side, you know? And so that's how I see this here. And I think it's important to know the definition of sifting. And so this is something that was mentioned in the commentary at the bottom here. So I'm just going to read it to you straight from the commentary that they put here. And I'm actually going to read to you a lot of the commentary here because I think it's really good and I really want to share it with you guys. And so that is, in Luke 22:31, the word sift is translated from the Greek syniazo, meaning to sift, shake in a sieve by inward agitation to try one's faith to the verge of overthrow. Jesus did not pray that Simon Peter would escape this intense shaking. He prayed that his faith would not fail in the process. Satan had requested permission to shake Simon Peter so severely that he would lose his faith. But God had a different purpose for the shaking. He allowed the enemy to shake everything in Simon Peter that needed to be shaken. There are 5 purposes for shaking an object. 1, to bring it closer to its foundation. 2, to remove what is dead. 3, to harvest what is ripe. And 4, to awaken it. And 5, to unify or mix together so it can no longer be separated. As a result of this tremendous shaking, all of Simon Peter's self-confidence would be gone, and all that would remain was God's sure foundation. He would be awakened to his true condition, the dead would be removed and the ripe fruit harvested, bringing him closer to his true foundation. He would no longer function independently, but would be interdependent on the Lord. And it says that little explanation was by John Bevere in, I guess it's a book, The Bait of Satan. So that's what the commentary was, and I think that is really powerful. Like, that has never really stood out to me before. Like, we are in some sifting right now, you know what I mean? And it is for a purpose, you know? Like, the Lord is good, and he doesn't make bad things happen. He doesn't inflict bad things upon us. He is good, he is perfect, he is holy. Like, evil cannot exist in his presence. It simply cannot. And he does protect us from these things, but he also allows us to be tested and allows us to be sifted, to strip us down to our best selves and strip us down to a point where we need to be near him, because we are nothing without him. You know what I mean? And so I hope that this encourages you when you're in the sifting, or I hope that this encourages you to prepare to be sifted, because you're going to be sifted at some point. Because if we are never sifted, we're going to stay the same. If you never face any trials or experiences that transform you, you will be the same person your whole life, and nobody wants that. You know what I mean? Like, if you, I don't know where you are in your life. So I'm finishing out college right now. If ending college, going into the real world Adriana was the same as college freshman Adriana, I don't want to be her anymore. I am not her anymore. I am a new person. And 5 years from now, I don't want to be college senior Adriana, you know what I mean? I want to be a new version of myself, and that doesn't happen without some sifting. But thankfully our Lord is good, and he has a purpose for it. He wants to bring us closer to our foundation. He wants to bring us closer to him. He wants to remove the dead parts of us. He wants to harvest what is ripe. There are pieces inside of us that are just pieces of gold ready to be used. We all have purpose and passion and talents that are God-given, and they are ready to be used, but we need to be shaken down so we can see them. And he uses another purpose for the sifting is to awaken us. Sometimes there are dead parts inside of us that need to come alive, and there are things we haven't realized inside of us that we need to realize. And another thing is to unify or mix together so it can no longer be separated. And that is something that you can see if you've ever gone through sifting or like a hard time with someone else. That brings you closer to them. Having that shared experience brings you together and makes you a stronger, unified front. And so honestly, sifting sucks sometimes, but the fruit of sifting is so good when you allow the Lord to work through it and bring purpose to it. And I have definitely been sifted. Like, I have been sifted a number of times that I can count. Probably the number one thing that I think of is my freshman year of college. I came in thinking I was going to be a doctor, and literally everything that could possibly stand in my way stood in my way. Like, I thought I was going to be a doctor my whole life, and this probably sounds lame because some of you have probably gone through some serious, intense, like, traumatic sifting, and I can't even imagine what that may be for you, but I promise the Lord has a purpose for it, and he will be glorified and you will be better because of it, because he loves you and he wants to see the best for you. And so I know this may sound lame to some of you, but this is just a way that I have personally experienced sifting in my life, and that I've so clearly, looking back, seen the Lord move. And so my freshman year, I wanted to be a doctor my whole life. I came into college so headstrong, so very full of pride, because I was one of very few people from my high school to go to like another college, move out of our town, blah, blah, blah. Like one of the only people in my friend groups to do that. And I was very much full of pride, very headstrong, very controlling, still am, still working on that. And I was just, there were a lot of dead things inside of me. I was in some wrong situations and relationships, and that year I got there and literally everything, the Lord was like, we are sifting, things are moving, we are shaking you up because you need to be. And I was very, like, I was gripping so hard. The only way for me to loosen that grip is to be shaken violently to get me to let go. And I know that, and I know that it was for a reason. And I'm so glad that I know that needed to happen, because I can keep myself from doing that in the future. And so he sifted. I was sifted. I was sifted. I was failing classes no matter how hard I tried. Like, when I tell you, like, studying until like all-nighters trying to study for exams and doing homework, and I was just not, it was just not happening for me. And so I was failing classes, relationships were not doing well. I was finding new friends that were just bringing me closer to the Lord, and then I was dropping other friends, and new passions were being awakened. And so once the sifting, in the sifting, and after the sifting, I literally came out of it a whole different person. I had different friends out of the sifting. I had totally different passions coming out of sifting, changed my major a couple times, finally found these new passions in me. Like, I was creative and I was limiting myself, and there was so much in me that needed to be awakened. And I would love to go into that a little bit deeper another time with you guys, but I needed that sifting. And so here in my journal I wrote, and I have been sifted and I am glad. I am not glad of what I did or how I handled certain circumstances, but I'm glad that the Lord loved me so much. He allowed me to go through those times so I could be a better me, know him better, give him glory, and strengthen my brethren. And so that's something else I wanted to mention, because Jesus says, But I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail, and when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren. And so when the sifting is over, or when you return and your faith is restored and you return and you face the Lord and you say, you know what, I can't do this on my own, I need Jesus. When you return to me, strengthen your brethren. And so something else I wrote here is, take what has been revealed to you and strengthen those around you. Your afflictions, your transgressions, your hardships and sifting are not meant to be in vain. This is why we're called to be vulnerable. Strengthen those around you when they're weak and train them when they're strong. If the Lord removes something from you or removed you from a situation and you see someone going down the same path, be vulnerable and honest in love. Because sometimes just sharing your experience and just sharing the way that the Lord has allowed the sifting to bring purpose and to strip you of things, and like those 5 different purposes for the sifting, the way he's moved through that sifting in your life and made you better because of it, sometimes just talking about that and being vulnerable with other people can save them from having to going through the intense shaking. You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes we all have to learn for ourselves. And I'm definitely sometimes a little hard-headed, and I definitely am one of those people. So I understand you're not alone there. I'm definitely speaking to myself here. But be vulnerable with people. When you've gone through sifting, like think back now, if you haven't really thought back to a time where you've been sifted, think back to a time where you've been sifted and think about, how did God move in that situation? Like, what did I come out with better than before? How am I a better person after that sifting than before? What ways can I see the Lord, the Lord having had moved? I can't use words. What ways did I see the Lord move? You know, what did he remove that was dead? What fruit have I seen come out of it? What new passions? What new parts of me came alive during that, you know? What was awakened? What did I get closer to? What was mixed together and unified and strengthened? Was I brought closer to the Lord after that? And just try to analyze the situations and give glory to him for what he's done in your life, but also prepare yourself. Write them down, because you're probably going to go through sifting again, and you need to see how faithful he is in those hard times to get you through the next ones. Because we need to change, we need to grow, we need to move, and that happens through hardships. You know what I mean? If everything was perfect all the time, we would have no need for miracles, we would have no need for growth, because we would just be perfectly in line with our situation forever, and no one wants to do that. You know, you want to move, you want to change, you want your life to look different. And so yeah, that's how I feel on that. And that's just kind of what stood out to me. And I feel like that's something that I just wanted to talk about right now. And I feel like stood out to me right now, because I know a lot of us are going through some sifting right now. I know that there are a lot of hard things going on in the world right now. And a lot of us are facing some really hard situations that are really shaking us up and testing us. And I just want you to know that this is not in vain. You are not being shaken for no reason. There's purpose for your shaking, and don't feel like the Lord, it's okay if you feel that way, that the Lord has abandoned you, but know that it's not true and it's a lie. The Lord has not abandoned you. He has never abandoned you, and he has a purpose for this, because he loves you so much that he's going to bring purpose even to your pain to make you better at the end of it. And so when you go through that, reach out to those people, be vulnerable with the people around you, and strengthen them and lift them up to encourage them if you see them going through sifting or going down that path. And so that's how I felt about that. And I just thought that was really awesome. And I'm just like, how lucky are we to have a God and a Father who loves us so much that even in our pain, he's going to bring purpose to it. He's not going to inflict that pain to us, but sometimes he allows us to go through it because he knows it's the best for us. And if you think about a parent, that sometimes parents got to do that, you know, sometimes you just got to say, you just got to experience it for yourself and learn for yourself, you know. And so he is a good father, and I think this is just, it shows that. And it's such a quick moment in the Last Supper, and like in all of the crazy things going on in like Luke 22 and on, but I think it's so important to call it out, because I just think that's crazy, and I'm really thankful for that, because there is purpose in it. And he prays for us to have faith, and that our faith should not fail. And I think we should pray for the same now, preparing for the sifting, that our faith should not fail. We should be strengthening ourselves now to glorify him even then when we're in it. So that's that. A couple other things that I wanted to call out really quickly, because I know this is getting a little long, is if you turn over to Luke 22, 60 is the last time that, Peter denies Jesus, because Jesus said that he was going to deny him 3 times before the rooster crowed. And at Luke 22:60, it says, "But Peter said, 'Man, I do not know what you are saying.' And immediately while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed, and the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said to him, 'Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times.' So Peter went out and wept bitterly." This shook me too, because I've known this. I've known this part forever. You know, like I've always heard of, like, I've read it before. Peter has denied him 3 times and he wept. And I knew that, but for some reason this time it stood out to me where it says, "And the Lord turned and looked at Peter." And that hurt my heart. Like, I could have cried reading that, because I can't imagine the savior of the world, like my friend, because Jesus was his friend, knowing that he denied him. And like, just the thought of Jesus turning and looking at him just hurt my heart. And so that just made me think of, like, what ways have I denied Jesus? You know what I mean? And sometimes it's not as blatant as saying, like, no, I don't know him, or no, I'm not part of that. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not as blatant as that. I feel like there's other ways that we deny Jesus daily and we don't realize it. And I'm just like, if Jesus looked at me in the face in all of his perfection and glory and just goodness, and I just, like, the sincerity of his face just looked at me and be like, you just denied me, like that, I'd be weeping too. And so that's something that I'm going to be searching in myself going into the rest of my Bible studies, and just being like, in what ways am I denying Jesus? In what ways am I walking away from him? And how can I fix that? And so that's something that I'm working on too, because that made me emotional for whatever reason, which I feel like makes sense, because I just can't imagine the look that Jesus gave Peter, and that makes me sad. But so there's that one, and I feel like there's something else I was going to say, but if I can't find it now, it's probably for a reason. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another Faith Friday. I love doing this with you guys. I love talking about these with you, and I hope you enjoy it too. As always, if you have any comments or ideas or thoughts or just revelations, comment them down below. Comment anything you want, because I want to engage in conversation with you about this, just really about anything going on in your life. Yeah, and don't forget to turn on that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload, because I'm uploading on Tuesdays and Fridays now, and things are about to get really fun. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and I will see you next Friday, or actually I'll see you Tuesday. Okay, bye bye.